Well, good evening. I'd like to welcome you to our city council meeting. It's always nice to see a room full of friendly people. So thank you for joining us. For the record, it's Tuesday, April 28th. We'll start with roll call attendance. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Cavanagh.
Here.
Councilmember Milam.
Here.
Councilmember Byrd.
Here.
Councilmember Zaremba.
Here.
Mayor DeVeard.
Here.
And Councilmembers Borton and Roundtree are absent.
Thank you. Item number 2 is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you will all rise and join us in the pledge to our flag. Item number 3 is our community invocation. Will be led tonight by Larry Woodard. He is with 10 Mile Christian Church. It's always nice to see you, Larry. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. I'd ask you to join us in the community invocation or take this as an opportunity for a moment of reflection.
Our dear Heavenly Father, as we come before you again tonight with our heads bowed, we want to once again thank you for watching over our city, and especially these members of the City Council and our mayor. Despite the news we see on television today, we recognize that there are increasing problems with drugs and violence throughout the country, but our city remains largely a good place to live, and I thank you for that. Tonight we have a very special evening with new police officers being sworn in. And I just want to take a minute to ask you to watch over these new officers as they begin their duties and also be with their families, because I know it's doubly hard for wives and parents. I want to pray also for our paramedics and for our fire personnel. Keep them all safe and keep our home safe this spring and summer. And as children come out to play, may our streets be safe and the playgrounds a place of enjoyment as Little League, soccer, and other team sports begin. I cannot help but reflect on a scene I saw this week. As I drove north on Meridian Road, I passed a pond along the road, and here was a grandfather sitting in a folding chair with his 2 grandchildren fishing in the pond. I'm not sure they caught any fish, but the point of it was Grandpa had taken them. I hope we have more scenes like that throughout our city. As a city, we wait to hear the news of possibly a new event center, and we ask for wisdom as to the right course of action. These are exciting times in Meridian, and we look forward to further results. I pray tonight for every household as we all struggle with societal changes, some good, others not so good. Keep our families together, and for those who are recovering from addictions, we ask for your hand on each. Many of us look forward to this Friday night when the rescue mission graduation is held, and we celebrate the year of long recovery for many young men. Help them as they return to society. Bless us tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Larry. We appreciated your words. Item number 4 is adoption of the agenda.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Byrd.
on item 5D, amend the title to read ACHD Temporary Construction Easement, Houstic Meridian to Lender Project Settlers Park section. And with that, I move we accept the amended agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt the amended agenda as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All ayes, motion carried. Item 5 is a consent agenda.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Byrd.
I move we approve the amended consent agenda as amended earlier, and for the mayor to sign, the clerk to attest.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt the Consent agenda, Madam Clerk, will you please call roll?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Cavanagh.
Aye.
Councilmember Mylum.
Aye.
Councilmember Byrd.
Aye.
Councilmember Zaremba.
Aye.
All ayes, motion carried. At this time, I'll turn this over to our Chief of Police, Jeff Levy.
Madam Mayor, Council, thank you for the time this evening. This morning, as I was preparing for today, I was grateful that I was not the Chief of Police for the City of Baltimore. But with that being said, regardless of what your views are, I would like to take this moment to keep our brothers and sisters in public safety in the City of Baltimore and their community in our thoughts as we have our ceremony this evening. We have a great place, the City of Meridian, and that great place is because of the men and women that are part of this community. And only the police department is a very small part. But we have been working tirelessly. It's kind of a marathon hiring session as we had to hire new people that you were gracious enough to approve in the last budget session. We had to replace a few people that had left and moved on. And we had to replace a couple of people that had retired from the City of Meridian. And so there was about 13 people that we hired over the last year. And I've been fortunate enough to introduce them to you, a couple every once in a while. Never has it been this big a group. And the other thing that I had chosen to do is to also bring our non-sworn employees as well. I don't believe we've ever included them here at City Council. We have given them recognition at our department ceremonies, but never at City Council. And they're equally, if not as important as the officers that are in the field, and so it's befitting to have them here today as well. So if you would allow me, I'm going to call first the 7 officers up front, and hopefully they'll remain in this order. But if Ashley could come up front and kind of stand over here, and then Courtney next to her, Matthew, I'll be the choreographer too. David, Candace, VJ, and Samuel. Now the purpose of today is kind of threefold. First, we're here to swear them in officially. Second, we're here to introduce them to council and to the community members in the audience. And third, it's a family moment. It is a moment for you to take pictures and to celebrate this moment in time as several of these officers start their law enforcement career and several others start a new career here at Meridian. So I want you to come forward and take pictures as soon as we get done with the oath. And Frank, you also can come up forward and get pictures as well, because sometimes we get pictures, and I don't want you guys to move, because sometimes we get pictures of them kind of like standing and walking away and going, I can't wait to get down. And we want to have some good pictures that show up in the in Facebook and then in the Valley Times. So
He told me I could take a picture, I did, so.
perfect.
So, thank you.
Perfect. If the officers can raise their right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear or affirm that I'll support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Idaho and the laws and ordinances of the city of Meridian, that I'll abide by the law enforcement code of ethics and the policies and procedures of the Meridian Police Department, that I will obey all lawful orders of those appointed over me, and that I will, to the best of my ability, faithfully discharge all the duties of police officer for the city of Meridian. Now I'm going to read a little bio from each officer, but as I'm doing that, any family member or Frank that wants to come forward and take pictures, you may do that. I promise not to get distracted from the flashes if they're behind me. So, Ashley Hagman Turner, make sure we're still in order, brings with her more than 3 years of experience as a police officer from the state of California, Bakersfield Police Department in Bakersfield, California. So welcome, Ashley. Ashley is a lateral officer with Meridian, and she'll have to challenge post. And so she's in that process right now. Courtney Dozier. He has almost 9 years of law enforcement experience, with the majority of that experience being as a police officer for the city of Caldwell here in the state of Idaho. Matthew Archuleta has almost 8 years of experience as a police officer with the Nampa Police Department, as well as the Burlington Northern Railroad in Washington State. During the past year, he's also been a coordinator at the Idaho Post. David Cushing comes from the city of Twin Falls, and he has almost 2 years of law enforcement experience with that agency. All four of those I just mentioned are lateral officers, means they came to Meridian with some level of experience. The next 3 officers have chosen the city of Meridian as their first law enforcement job, hopefully their last law enforcement job, but it's always exciting to get new blood that is excited about joining law enforcement after we see all the negative things on a daily basis. Candace Hennifer joins the Meridian Police Department as a police officer recruit. She has spent the last 5 years working as a wildland firefighter. She is scheduled to attend the Post Academy in June of 2015. And yes, Chief Niemeyer, we did recruit her over. Vijay Sani joins the Meridian Police Department as a police officer recruit. He was born in the city of Meridian and is the second generation of family policing here in the Treasure Valley. He is scheduled to attend the Post Academy in June 2015. What's unique about this young man is that his father is retired from the Ada County Sheriff's Office, who is standing right behind me, but his brother is a deputy for Ada County Sheriff's Office, who is sitting behind me as well. And then VJ was the smart one because he came to the city of Meridian.
I'm glad you said that because I was about
You
to.
would have. So hopefully he's not armed now that he's retired, but that's not. And Sam joins the Meridian Police Department. Samuel Lang joins the Meridian Police Department as a police officer recruit. He is scheduled to attend the Post Academy 2015, and I believe Sam also has some U.S. Navy experience as well. So he's also a veteran in the U.S. military. So we thank you for that as well. Did we get pictures? Everybody got pictures? No. You can come take them. The time is yours. Yeah. Sergeant Parsons isn't here, is he? Yes. No selfies, Matt. Carol, go, which way did I look? I look left, I look right, I look straight ahead. Thank you, the torture's over. You may have a Madam Mayor, Council, I'd just like to point out that all 7 of these officers have just completed a 5-week advanced academy training program. 4 of the lateral officers are currently working the streets in the field training process. The other 3 officers are awaiting their academy slot, which is not until June 21st. So what they are doing is riding with officers, riding with detectives. I think they're going to down to a dispatch to spend a week down at dispatch as well, and kind of learn behind the scenes before they're actually hit the road in a training capacity. And they will have 10 weeks of the police academy, and they'll come back and do 14 weeks of field training. So congratulations, officers.
So Jeff, before you move on, I would just like to welcome you to our City of Meridian family. You've joined a department that has a good reputation in our community. They have a different culture here. They've embraced our care values of customer service, accountability, respect, and excellence, where our police officers are partners with our citizens. We know that our police can't do it all, and our citizens are willing partners to our law enforcement. You have joined a family that's very supportive of one another, and we are thrilled to have you join us. Now, I'm glad I didn't know about the Caldwell, Nampa, and Twin Falls before now, because I just saw their mayors, and I would have had to apologize. But I don't know how sincere that apology would have been. We do think you chose the right law enforcement department, and we hope that you're here, and we come to your retirement party. So to the families, thank you. We know that your officer is going to need your support, and it's probably a difficult row for our families, and certainly Councilman Kavanagh, growing up in a law enforcement household, probably can say a lot about how that works. But to our families, thank you. We appreciate you sharing your loved ones with us, and we'll keep them safe as they work to keep our community safe. So again, congratulations. We look forward to seeing you on the street, waving at you. I did tell the chief that is the sign of success when our police officers wave at people when they drive by them. So just saying. Any other comments from council? Okay.
Madam Mayor?
Mr. Kavanagh.
I'll be brief. Well, this is a family here. We know there is a true family for our emergency responders, but here at the City of Meridian, it's a family too, and we are excited and honored that you chose to continue your career with our community. We're excited to have you here. You will follow a long line of other officers that have continued to make our police officers and our emergency responders the best in the country, and we're really excited and honored to have you here. So thank you.
And we do know it's because of our safety personnel that we are one of the safest communities in Idaho. We're third. We're going for number 1, but we have to beat out Weiser and Rexburg or Rigby or something. So there you go. Again, welcome. And I'll turn this back over to you, Chief.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to call Kendall and Christy forward, and if you could stand in the same areas that the officers did. As I was coming to council today, I was sitting out in the parking lot and I was receiving emails from Kendall, and I was wondering, why is she working so late? And then I realized that she was probably just working before she had to be here. So these these two introductions are kind of special because, as I hinted to before, we have people that work behind the scenes, and they do a major part, if not a bigger part, than what the officers often do. Christy works in the support staff in the records division as a data clerk, but Kendall's a little bit more out there in the community because she is doing the substance abuse coordinator role for MADC. But I couldn't do it justice introducing them, and so I asked them to write me a short paragraph for a bio that I'd like to read to you as well. They're not more than a couple pages long, so no. Kendall is an Idaho native born in the city of McCall. She and her husband of nearly 20 years are grateful to be raising their daughters in such a safe and supportive community. She comes to the Meridian Police Department with a strong background working throughout the community as an advocate for families and youth. She has been a nonprofit president, a business owner, and teacher. Kendall enjoys teaching and mentoring children, which is reflected in her choice of volunteer commitments such as soccer coach, Girl Scout troop leader, and active PTA member. She says she is very much looks forward to serving the Meridian community as she works to reduce drug use through education and prevention in her new position as a substance abuse prevention coordinator, and she's also in charge of the Mayor's Anti-Drug Coalition. So welcome aboard, Kendall. Christy has been a resident of Meridian for the past 10 years. She has been married for 25 years and has 2 daughters. She and her husband are expecting their first grandson next month.
All right.
Prior to being hired on full-time, Christy has volunteered for the Meridian Police Department in records and our own Meridian City Hall, supporting the mayor's office as well as running the information desk in the lobby. If she looks familiar, you've probably seen her at those 1 or 2 places. She continues giving of her time volunteering for the VA in downtown Boise, and during the winter months spends much time as possible on the ski slopes. Christy previously owned a videographing business and spent time in a computer networking firm working in facilities and security. Christy is excited to begin her career with law enforcement at the Meridian Police Department. So welcome aboard, Kendall and Christy. Come get a picture. If you don't get it quick, they're gonna leave.
Thank you.
Kendall, we'd like to welcome both of you to our city family, and I know we'll be seeing both of you. I look forward to meeting with you, Kendall, and touching base on the Anti-Drug Coalition and getting a good grip on what your vision is for it as well. You have great leadership, a lot of support, and you make it, that program and the people that are involved in it make a huge difference in our community in partnership with our law enforcement. It's a hand-in-glove type of a duty, and I have been assured by the chief that it's a passion for you, and I look forward to working with you. And Christy, it's great to see you, and I just wish you a lot of success in this new venture. So thank you for being here tonight.
Madam Mayor, Council, I actually spoke about Kendall sending out an email right before we came here. You probably haven't had an opportunity to read it yet, but if you read that email, you can just sense the passion in that email, and so it's just exciting. So I think we have many positive moments in store with. She's kind of like Stephanie, kind of a fireball. So. I would like to thank you for giving me this time. I know it's councils have gone for many hours this month, and so we We were trying to keep them as short as possible as you go to the month, but I'm glad that you gave me this time to have this this awesome responsibility in introducing our new employees. We're very, very, very excited about this group of people. Probably had the greatest success through the hiring process this time around than we've ever had. And I don't know what we've done differently. So the quality of people that we got this time was just phenomenal. Not to say that we haven't had great people in the past, but we've had to work very, very hard to find those people in the past, and it was just a little bit easier this time.
Well, Chief, I think that speaks to the team that you have and the reputation that you're building as a team, as a family, as a good place, a good culture to work in. So that goes well to the team that you have in the back of the room that's always so unruly, but it's all part of the culture,
And they're
right?
always in the back too, right? It's usually back on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And no, you all don't have to stay here. You can really leave if you would like. Okay, we'll say there were no items moved from the consent agenda, so we'll go right into items 8A and B and turn this over to Sean.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight to talk to you about this. This will be the first of probably many of my appearances at council all summer long, so this starts my marathon, so hopefully you don't get too tired of me. What I'd like to talk to you about tonight is the community center facade improvement, why that failed, and bring you up to speed on what the genesis of that was. And then also, because I missed last week's, this week's was going to be my amendment that I wanted to propose, so I'll go ahead and go into that afterwards. If I can next slide. Sean, you need to use the stylus. Oh, I see. I was just swiping earlier and it was working. Thank you, Bruce. So this project, we started it last summer. It was developed in the 14 action plan as a slum and blight remediation. When I started the process of making sure that this was a qualifiable project before we spent money and dug any dirt on this project, we discovered that HUD was not going to fund this project. It wasn't qualifiable. The reasons why is because in the past we've done all of our urban renewal, all of our slum and blight projects, our facade improvements, under the auspices of the MDC's URA. We found out this year that HUD will only allow you to use the URA for the first 10 years of its lifespan, even though the state statute allows us to go further to do other projects. So in order to do CDBG projects, we have to have something else to base that off of. We're now in year 12 or 13, I think, of the MDC's URA, so it no longer provides a justification for us to do those types of projects. So it's good that we started to do the digging before we actually started digging and had to pay any money back. That means that we still have a $162,000 project that we have to backfill for 2014. HUD really did work with us and tried to find another way to qualify this project. They wanted to see it go because it was a planned project. They saw it, they approved it. They admitted that they missed that piece when they did their check of our action plan last year. The end result is this project is dead. It's not going to go forward. The remedial action that I've come up with, we're currently planning for the 2015 action plan year. That means we have a lot of applications coming in, different projects, different people who are applying for next year's funds. I found that there were at least two that had the capacity to and the ability to carry out their projects that they submitted this year. They qualified. They were able to carry them out within this program year 2014, one of which is Meridian Parks and Recreation. Story Park, that is an ADA upgrade. That's a remodel. We're not building a new facility there. We're not knocking one down. It's an actual ADA compliance piece. And Parks has assured me that they can go ahead and cut on that really quickly. And Boise City Ada County Housing Authority has approached us as well. They want to, again, partner with the City of Meridian to do direct home buyer assistance. We've done that with them in the past. We've been successful. They are willing to take that on as well again. So those are the two that came through that were immediately qualifiable. They fit a large chunk of that 2014 year project or program year 2014 budget. The other part of this is we have a problem that we've got to fix, and that's we don't have anything to justify doing slum and blight, urban renewal, economic revitalization, historic renovations, or any of those types of projects. And are really great tools for CDBG to use, and we've done them in the past. So what I recommend is that we use the admin budget, which part of what it's there for is to do planning, like we do the consolidated plan and some of those other pieces as a planning project. We submit RFPs to qualified organizations that can do a slum and blight study on the City of Meridian, identify contributing factors of slum and blight, contributing factors to deteriorating historicity of our buildings and our downtown. And once we have that, I bring that to council. Council takes a look at that, and then we submit that to HUD for approval. We can use that as our justifications for the next 10 years. So those are the three that I am recommending to put into the substantial amendment, because we have to do a substantial amendment. As we all know, substantial amendments require a citizen participation plan trigger, which means we have a 30-day comment period, which will probably be a little bit longer than that because I'll start it as soon as possible. And then we'll have to have a public hearing, which we will do at council and close. So my staff recommendation is to direct staff to execute the substantial amendment as described, barring any feedback from council and mayor, to begin the citizen participation process immediately. I'll go straight to the newspapers and put that out there. And also to direct staff to return and present that amendment, close the public comment period whenever it does expire, and then submit that to HUD. And with that, staff will stand for any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Council, any questions?
I have none.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. So do you need a motion tonight to move forward?
I believe I do, ma'am.
Okay,
Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Byrd.
keep that up on the screen so I can read it. I move that we direct staff to execute the substantial amendment as described and begin the citizen participation process immediately, and also to direct the staff to return to present the amendment and close the public comment period when expired and submit to HUD.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, will you call roll?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilman Cavanagh.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mylum.
Aye.
Councilman Byrd.
Aye.
Councilman Zaremba.
Aye.
All ayes. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thanks, Sean.
Okay, items 8C, D, and E are public hearings on RZ 15-002, MCU 15-001, and VAC 15-002. I will open these three public hearings with staff comments.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Next hearing, or next item on the agenda this evening is the Calderwood Business Park. It's located on the southeast corner of South Meridian Road and East Calderwood Drive, and is currently zoned LO within the city. The project before you consists of approximately 4.08 acres of land, and in 2004, this property was before you. At that time, the developer was proposing to develop a 12-lot office park that was approved with the assisted living facility that's to the east of this site, and then also the 40 single-family lots are directly to the south of this development. So they came in with a plan unit development and got a use exception to develop an office park on this property. The current land use designation of this piece is medium-density residential in a comprehensive plan. Because the property sits adjacent to commercial designation, and because the land use designations aren't parcel specific, both staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission find merit in floating that comprehensive plan designation across this property to rezone a portion of the site to the CG zoning district. And the next exhibit here shows you the approved concept plan that came through before you with the business park, or the office park, excuse me, which shows the 12 office buildings, the assisted living facility, and then also the single-family lots that are south of this. With the rezone application, the applicant has provided a revised concept plan to replace the concept plan I just showed you. You can see here the lots that front along Meridian Road are proposed to be zoned CG, which is approximately 2.73 acres of the site. Along the east boundary, we have 3 office pad sites, and that consists of approximately 1.35 acres of land. Access to this development will be provided from East Calderwood Drive, which is currently constructed. Another full access point is constructed along the east boundary that will provide another access to a local street, which is labeled Black Spur Way. And both streets were developed and improved with the development of the Larkspur subdivision in 2004. The concept plan before you this evening does not show any access to Meridian Road, and none is proposed with this application. ACHD did provide comments on this application because the applicant is not changing the 2 access points that they acted on in 2004. They really had no comments related to this application. The applicant is asking for a vacation this evening to, 1, reduce the landscape buffer along Meridian Road. At the time that they came before you, the PD required a 40-foot wide landscape buffer, and under the current UDC standards, we only require a 35-foot wide landscape buffer. So that is one modification. And then the other modification or vacation that they're asking for you to act on is to vacate several lots that were platted with the subdivision in 2004 that required cross-access within the development and also cross-access to the property to the south. Because the applicant is here going through that rezone before you this evening, staff is recommending a development agreement be part of the rezone process, and we have a recommended DA provision that requires cross-access between all of these parcels and also to the property to the south. So although we're vacating those, modifying the recorded plat, we are getting a separate agreement to facilitate cross-access not only with internal to this development, but also to the property to the south. The applicant has provided sample elevations for you this evening. On the left-hand side, you can see the office elevations, and on the right-hand side are the retail components, the retail buildings fronting along Meridian Road. Staff finds that these are consistent with the design standards in the UDC. Ultimate design will be dictated when the applicant submits for certificate of zoning compliance and administrative design review applications. As I mentioned to you, the applicant is required to comply with a DA, or at least staff is recommending a DA with the rezone of the property. What's before you are the recommended DA provisions, and I've also went ahead and inserted the revisions that occurred during the Planning and Zoning Commission on March 17th, in which Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval of the project to you this evening. The first one would be compliance with the concept plan and the elevations shown to you. Certificate of zoning compliance for the future pad sites, which is consistent under today's code. The biggest item, or one of the modifications of the Planning and Zoning Commission, was allowing the applicant to pull a building permit prior to initiating the DA. And both Planning and Zoning and staff was comfortable with that due to the fact that the applicant already has existing zoning in place, which would allow, and buildable lots that would allow them to get started on the office portion. So both staff and commission supported that. The previous concept plan showed common open space with the office park. And so staff wanted to keep in flavor with, keep consistent with that approval. So we have recommended that a central open space be provided within the commercial or the business park. And that's open space is at 1,500 square feet minimum. The applicant did provide details of that, and unfortunately I didn't get that in the presentation to show you this evening, but I can assure you it's a pretty nice trellis and sitting area centrally located within the development. Again, the applicant will have to comply with the dimensional standards of the CG zone and the LO zone. And because of this proximity of this development adjacent to the residential to the south, staff wanted to ensure that this had a neighborhood commercial feel to it, not necessarily vehicle dominated. And so we wanted to make sure, we looked at our schedule of uses and we wanted to restrict specific uses from developing on this site. And I'll go through those very quickly. We're recommending that we restrict drinking establishments, vehicle repair, equipment, sales and rental, and service, wireless communication facilities, vehicle washing facility, fuel sales facility, outdoor rec facility, and then vehicle sales and rentals are the uses prohibited on this site. The Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend that the applicant be allowed to allow 2 drive-through uses on this site. Again, they will have to go back to the Planning and Zoning Commission for approval of that. Staff's original recommendation was to restrict the site to a single drive-through use. Again, and our recommendation was to be located in the location shown on the concept plan. But during the hearing, again, Commission sided with the applicant and allowed for the 2 drive-through uses to be located anywhere on the site, provided that they go through that conditional use process. Because it is adjacent to residential district, staff is recommending restricting hours of operation in the development from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. in the CG zone, and the LO zone would be restricted to 6 a.m. and 10 p.m., which is consistent with the zoning ordinance as well. Item DA Provision H is the restricted access to Meridian Road, and also speaks to the shared parking and cross-access agreement between the development and the adjacent property to the south. And then also, because the applicant is entering into a development agreement with the city, staff feels there's no longer merit for them to comply with the recorded plan unit development, or the PD, because they're changing the plan substantially. Again, here's the requirement for the landscape buffers along the perimeter of the development, which again is consistent with the UDC. And the one item that the applicant would like you to take under advisement this evening is that buffer requirement along the south boundary. Because we have 2 different zoning districts along that boundary, the CG zone would require a 25-foot wide landscape buffer along the south boundary, and then the LO zone portion would only require a 20-foot wide landscape buffer. So the applicant this evening is seeking a waiver from council to reduce that buffer to 20 feet along the entire southern boundary to have a uniform buffer width along that. The applicant has received a letter from the adjacent owner on the south boundary, and he's supportive of the reduced buffer because he envisions going commercial or changing that zoning in the future as well. So he envisions some sort of commercial in the future as well. So he's supportive of the 20-foot wide landscape buffer. And I'd also mentioned to council that there's an existing 6-foot vinyl fence along the south boundary as well that would screen the commercial development. So those are in place. Testifying at the hearing, we had Lance Warnick, which is the applicant's representative, and then Ron Gwartney. We had Marilyn McIntyre commenting on the application, and she was in opposition of the project. And Lance Warnick did submit written testimony on the application, and a lot of the modifications that you see to the recommended DA provisions were as a result of his written testimony. So key items of discussion by the commission, one was the implementation of the cross-access driveway to the property on the south, restricting vehicle washing facility from developing on the property, and then discussion of how many drive-throughs would be appropriate on the property as well. As I alluded to in my presentation and what's before you this evening as far as the recommended DA provisions, those were items that commission did change at the hearing, so I won't go into all those again. And so other than the reduction of the landscape buffer discussed in my presentation, staff has not received, or staff has no knowledge of any other outstanding issues for you this evening. We have not received any written testimony on the application since the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'll conclude my presentation, and I'll stand for any questions council may have.
Thank you, Bill. Council, any questions?
I have none.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Zaremba?
I'd like to ask about the 2 drive-throughs, if I may, the second. It's apparent from the concept plan where the first one would be, and that it appears that it probably is intended to be a bank building, maybe or maybe not. The LO zone, okay, so the discussion was the second could be on any of these other properties subject to the conditional use permit. Do we allow drive-throughs on LO with a conditional use? So this actually would be offering them something that we prohibit elsewhere. That
Madam Mayor,
should we be doing that?
Mayor, members of the council, the intent of that provision would, again, looking at the DA provision, they're subject to whatever uses are allowed in those districts. So if it's not allowed in the LO zone, they can't propose that use.
Okay,
So by default of that DA provision, they would only be allowed to have a drive-through use within the CG zone portion, and they again would have to go through that conditional use process because of their proximity to the residential district.
good. I appreciate that explanation because I didn't want to accidentally have the applicant think that they suddenly had something that we didn't intend. So my second question on the same subject would be, don't we also, through the conditional use permit, require any drive-through to be something like 300 feet from residential, or that would kind of preclude the southern property in the CG? Am I remembering that correctly, or is that not true?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, Councilman Zaremba, the 300-foot threshold it's not a separation between a residential district. It's what triggers a conditional use permit.
Okay.
So if it wasn't within 300 feet, it would be an administrative approval instead of a conditional use approval. But because they are within 300 feet of a residential district, both drive-throughs are going to require that conditional use. There's no way to get around it under the ordinance. They're
Okay.
within the R4 zoning district along the southern boundary, so they're going to have to go through the CU process just
Thank
based
you.
on that measurement.
Great.
Okay, anything further? Okay, would the applicant like to comment? Good evening. If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, thank you very much. For the record, my name is Lance Warnick. I'm a professional engineer with Aspen Engineers. My business address is 485 West Main, Suite B, P.O. Box 205, CUNA 83634. I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicant, GGR LC, to kind of talk about this project that we're calling Calderwood Business Park. I think I just first want to thank Bill for the time and effort that he's put on this project. I've personally been involved on this property with previous owners, dating clear back to like 2003. And so it's nice to see this vacant parcel get some life again. And that's essentially what we're talking about. You know, that 3 acres, it's located at the southeast corner of Calderwood and Meridian Road. It's sat idle for the last 10 years. The applicants have recently purchased it and would like to bring some growth and some business to the area. As Bill stated, we're asking essentially for 4 different things. The first, to rezone the westerly portion of the property from LO to CG. To second, to modify the existing conditional use permit. Essentially, the CUP would go away, and as a result, we'd enter into a new development agreement, as opposed to trying to put a list together of like 24 items to put in that amendment, which I tried to do. And became very, very cumbersome. So I appreciate staff's recommendations for just the development agreement. And then also to vacate a few of the plat notes to essentially configure with the new layout of the site. And then also to adjust that landscape buffer on the south that Bill had talked about. I think that the staff report summarized things pretty well, but I just kind of want to highlight on a few items, and hopefully I can address a few questions. I just want to note that originally, as you see this map that's up here on the screen, we were originally planning to leave the south portion at LO and and then rezone the north portion to CG. We thought that would help provide a buffer, but as we talked with the neighbors, they seemed to want to have it along Black Spur. And so that was one thing from our first neighborhood meeting that we had. We took back, we came back, we changed it so that that CG portion is along the highway, which I think makes sense, you know, kind of maintaining the businesses adjacent to the roadway there. I believe the applicants have they've expended a lot of effort to try to communicate with the neighbors. The first neighborhood meeting we had, you know, right here in City Hall, I don't know, we had probably 20 people show up, a lot of questions, a lot of concerns. We followed up with that with a packet of information I mailed out to each one of them that talked about the specific uses. And then we invited them back to another meeting several weeks later so they could see the changes that we had made to the plan. And on that one, we had maybe 8 people. So it seems with each time we communicate with them, we've been able to address more and more of their comments. And I think we went from a situation where people were just wondering what's going to happen, or I think we now have most of the surrounding areas pretty much happy with what's being proposed, and that's what we've tried to do. Mr. Simpson, the property owner in the south, has given a letter essentially supporting the rezone to the CG. He's the only property that would be adjacent to that particular zone. He's also the one that would be adjacent to that reduced buffer width of going from a 25 feet down to 20 feet. We looked at the recommended conditions that are included on Exhibit B in the staff report, and as I've stated before, we're in agreement with those recommended conditions. The map that you see before you, one of the notes on the plat was requiring access essentially through a lot 5, which is kind of over on the westerly side of the property. One of the things that we've asked to do is have that essentially be eliminated. The goal would be to the access to Mr. Simpson's property would be at that very south end of the property where you see that yellow line. The nice thing about that, it provides more of a direct route to him to get back access up to Calderwood Drive. So I think it will increase connectivity between the parcels if he does develop as a commercial property someday. Boy, Bill stole a lot of my thunder. He does such a great job. So I don't want to beat around the bush, but just reiterate that we think that the rezone of the westerly portion of CG is in accordance with comp plan. We think it makes sense being adjacent to the highway. The 3 office pads that you see in the LO, we've actually in the process of preparing plans for that as we speak, and we hope to have those submitted to the city soon to just demonstrate that this project is moving forward. In fact, 2 of the items on your consent agenda tonight were water and sewer easements for the project that we've got underway right now. So we appreciate your approval of those. So if we're asking for the rezone, modify the property, take it out of the CUP, vacate those plat notes that have been discussed, and then allow us to have that reduced landscape width so it's consistent, 20 feet along the south. And then if I may, Madam Mayor, members of the council, in terms of the drive-through, simply all we're asking for with the drive-throughs is just have that opportunity to come back. We recognize that not every drive-through is compatible with all locations. So if the owners or future lot owner wants to come in with the drive-through, they can submit a conditional use permit, and the P&Z folks can judge it on the merits. And that's why we're simply asking for no more than 2. They would absolutely be in the CG portion. We're not planning to put anything over the other zone. We recognize that that's the process. So with that, I'd stand for any questions, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Council, any questions?
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Mr. Zerba.
2, I appreciate your understanding the clarification on where a second drive-through would be appropriate and where it wouldn't be appropriate, subject to the CUP. And forgive me, when you were discussing cross-access of the south CG south CG property with a neighbor, I missed whether you are for that or against that. I didn't quite catch what you said.
Madam Mayor, members of the commission, I was probably running 100 miles an hour. What I had stated is that the existing plat was locking us into a very specific condition that was, Bill, do you see he's moving it up and down on the screen at that location? What we've asked for in that modification is to have that specific location be removed. We will absolutely provide cross-access. We think it's good for us. We think it's good for the neighbor. But it's going to be more where Bill is showing the arrow right now. And the nice thing about that, it fits in well with this. But also, if he develops commercial and folks are coming to his business, it's going to be a lot easier to find looking down that driveway from Calderwood and not having to kind of zig and zag through somebody else's parking lot to get to there. So I think it's a better process, and we are for the connectivity.
appreciate the clarification.
Thank you. Any other questions? Ms. Mylum?
Madam Mayor, and I might just be confused because it talks about it in so many different places, but on the landscape buffer, I'm looking at the planning and zoning recommendations, and I'm looking at on this form, and so on here it says it'll be a 25-foot buffer unless we reduce it to 20 feet, and or 35-foot and then a 15-foot landscape buffer adjacent to Blackspur. But on here, it says 10-foot landscape buffer. So are we reducing all of the buffers or just the one from 25 feet to 20 feet?
Madam Mayor, could I jump in on this?
Yes.
Okay. Let's start from the north and kind of work the way around. So the landscape buffer, I believe that's required under code along Calderwood is 20, and we're proposing to have that stay at 20. Along Blackspur, which forms our easterly boundary, I believe the required minimum there is 10, but due to some easements and just the way we're putting the buildings, we'll actually have a 15-foot landscape buffer along there. Along the south portion, code on that portion that is to the right of that yellow line, since it's an LO zone, requires a 20-foot setback. Code on the portion that's west of that line in the CG zone requires a 25-foot setback. And so what we've asked is that could be consistent along the south boundary to be a 20-foot. And that's when that letter from Mr. Simpson essentially supporting that comes into play. And then over on the westerly boundary adjacent to Meridian Road, as Bill had stated, when the property was originally platted, there was a condition placed upon the property that required a 40-foot landscape buffer. We're asking to just have that go to 35 feet, which is the width that's required under city code at this time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Did I miss anything, Bill?
You're hired.
Right? Can you explain like that next time?
Yeah, he was. Any other questions from council?
I have none.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone else who would like to provide testimony on this item? Good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. My name's Bob Runyon, P.O. Box 2579, Eagle, Idaho, and I'm a member of the owners, managing partner. The only thing that I didn't hear is that we had a landscape plan ready to go on the, what would be the east side, the office side, that didn't show any berms. And when we met with the neighbors, I told them I'd do a berm. So we got that drawing done and submitted with a berm. We worked with the neighbors and they were great. We met 2 times. And other than that, we took Bill's lead and tried to work through the process best we could. And Bill was good, and we hope you approve our project. That's it.
Well, thank you. Council, any questions?
I have none.
We appreciate you being here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other comment? Council, any additional information needed? I would entertain a motion to close.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Mr.
I
Byrd.
move we close the public hearings on RZ 15002, MCU 15001, and VAC 15002.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close the public hearings on these 3 items. All those in favor say aye.
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 All ayes.
Aye.
Yeah, I heard it late. All ayes, motion carried.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Byrd.
I move we approve RZ 15-002 and include all staff, applicant, and public testimony.
Second.
I have a motion and a couple of seconds to approve. If there's no discussion, Madam Clerk, will you call roll?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Cavanagh.
Aye.
Councilmember Mylum.
Aye.
Councilmember Byrd.
Aye.
Councilmember Zaremba.
Aye.
All ayes, motion carried.
Madam
Item 8D, yes, Mr. Byrd.
Mayor, I move we approve MCU 15-001 and to include all staff, applicant, and public testimony.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item 8D. Madam Clerk, will you call roll?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Cavanagh.
Aye.
Councilmember Mylum.
Aye.
Councilmember Byrd.
Aye.
Councilmember Zaremba.
Aye.
All ayes. Mr. Byrd.
Madam Mayor, I move we approve VAC 15-002 and to include all staff, applicant, and public testimony.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item 8E. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Cavanagh.
Aye.
Councilmember Mylum.
Aye.
Councilmember Byrd.
Aye.
Councilmember Zaremba.
Aye.
All ayes, motion carried. Thank
See
you.
that in,
Item 9A is under our Public Works Department. Kind of, it's a citywide thing. Just Tom is tagged.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I am it this evening. Sorry to disappoint. However, it's my pleasure to bring back this item, the citywide strategic plan, to your attention. You might recall 2 weeks ago, the mayor and I co-presented the citywide strategic plan draft and asked for your comments and suggestions over what was to be the next couple of weeks. We did make one small change that I did send out via email to all the council members, which was a retitling change. The health and safety now section is safe, healthy, safety, hold on a
Safe,
second,
healthy,
even I'm
and
confused.
secure.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That is the only change that was made to the document. There were no comments received over the 2-week period that we had hoped to allow for comments. So the document stands as it is. I'm just here. I don't have a presentation or anything. I have no new information to share for you, or share with you rather. So I'm just here to continue the dialogue and see if it's something that we might be able to move forward to adoption, either this evening or sometime very soon after this meeting. So with that, I'll turn the time over to you for a conversation and stand for questions you might have.
Thank you, Tom. Council, any questions?
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Zaremba.
just this moment, I'm remembering a question that I had earlier, so I'm sorry that I haven't submitted it, but, and I forget which page it's on, but there's a listing of services that the city performs, it says directly. The list does not include trash collection, which we do by contract, but I'm wondering if that somehow ought to also be acknowledged as a city responsibility in that bullet list. And I would say recycling and trash collection, actually, to emphasize the fact that we do have a recycling program. That's a question, not a statement.
Madam Mayor, Councilman Zaremba, that is a good catch. The services via the public services in the form of recycling and trash collection are not listed as either a direct or indirect service that the city receives. Apparently an oversight on our part. And with the council's approval, I would recommend, therefore, that we include not necessarily Republic Services as the provider, but that we do have other partners that provide recycling and trash collection services. And we put that at the top of page 5 with the other government partners and non-government partners that provide services to the city.
agree with you, Tom.
Yes.
Great. I'll make that addition then.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Madam Mayor?
Mr. Kavner.
Maybe kind of dovetailing off of David's point. Tom, can you explain the thought process about, there's a lot of things that are in our strategic plan that are things that we're already doing. And I'm just, in my background, strategic plans have always been about the next steps that we should be doing that we currently aren't. Talk to me about why we're talking about things that we're already doing as part of our planning process for the future.
Madam Mayor, Councilman Kavner, the intention is not to wrap or operationalize existing activities into the strategic plan. However, some of what you might be picking up are activities that we might want to do better, for example, or activities we want to expand, or areas of service that we provide currently that we would like to expand into the future. So the idea behind this strategic plan draft is to identify those and to essentially communicate those expansions of either service or quality or delivery or whatnot, so that it's clear that we intend those advancements in those areas. It is sometimes confusing when you see an item that appears to be something we already do without some of that context to know that it might be something we want to do better or in a different area or with a different partner or so on and so forth.
Madam Mayor, to that point, I think that's been my biggest challenge with the plan, is that there's a lot of ambiguity to it. I found myself time and time again saying, well, who's doing this? Who's responsible for this? Is this something that we as a community want to occur, or is this something that we say the Public Works Department needs to be taking the lead on, or the council needs to be focused on? And when I go through, I count a lot of who's. And so, again, is that intentionally done to keep things ambiguous? And if so, why?
Well, right now, it's really, you have a document that's 30,000 feet level. Before each of the departments took this and identified roles and started to develop key performance indicators that we can measure success and put a tactical plan together around, those items will be further fleshed out. But right now, we didn't want to move forward with that level of effort until we knew we were on the right track.
Okay.
Do you have anything you want to add to that?
Madam Mayor, I think you've handled that well. The ambiguity, there's no intention for ambiguity. We are relying on the tactical plans which will follow these broad goals and objectives to provide that specificity.
Madam Mayor, one more question.
Mr. Kavner.
Some of these they're much more fleshed out. There's some that are maybe at a 30,000 foot view, and sometimes I feel like at a 40 or 50,000 foot view. But responsive government was the one that I naturally sunk my teeth into a lot. And I had a question about item D, number 4. I'm not quite sure what that means. Evaluate the need for centralized professional, administrative, operational oversight for city functions.
Excellent question.
I think that could be drawn a lot of different ways.
It can be. And there isn't a prescription here that would suggest that we have any particular way that we'd like to go. The intention behind D4 under responsive government, as you read, is to essentially evaluate if this city has grown and matured enough in its administrative and operational components to justify the need of additional assistance at that level, at a higher level professional, like a city administrator type of level. So that it was intentional to have all of the department directors and the mayor and the city council begin to evaluate whether or not that was something that we wanted to entertain as a city going forward. As you know, when the mayor, I think this is correct, Mayor, I wasn't here when you first took your first term. You were the first full-time mayor. Is that correct?
Oh.
No.
The mayor prior to me, 2 years, the remaining 2 years of his term was full-time.
Okay, so full-time mayor position
Or maybe the last
2 years prior to the mayor's term.
First time elected fellows.
Exactly. Community continues to grow. There are over 20 cities in the state of Idaho operating with a city administrator right now. There's a city manager operating Twin Falls. We're not prescribing that outcome. All we're suggesting is there a way to align better some of the administrative and operational functions with a professional administrative arm of the city that would work in partnership with the city council and the mayor? Is that a model that is something we want to entertain? Is it a model that has any meaning or merit for the city? And if it's not, that's fine. That's why it's a strategic objective. It says evaluate. So that was the point behind, or the purpose behind, that particular section, or goal, I should say, and objective under the responsive government section of the strategic plan.
It's kind of like explore districts for city council. It's pretty broad. It's, as we start to really roll up our sleeves, that's when you have the more in-depth.
And that particular one, I mean, that one made sense to me. I wasn't bright enough to figure out what that particular one, that was my assumption, but I didn't want to move forward with the assumption as that's what we were talking about, so.
Oh, thank you for your question.
Any other questions? Good questions.
Madam Mayor?
Mr.
Oh,
Byrd?
go ahead.
Madam Mayor, and Tom, so what are then the next benchmarks if we were to adopt this tonight or in the relatively near future? What do you envision is the next step? And when is the next time that we as a council are updated onto this? I know when you presented this 2 years ago, or 2 weeks ago, you had mentioned that, you know, the strategic group would present an annual update. I would assume we'd be hearing more about this, though, before a year from now?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, for sure. So the intention behind, and I can't speak for all the directors of the mayor, but I can tell you at least my impression of the process as to where we are to date, is that we're looking for adoption of this particular broader goal document, the strategic plan. Once we get that adoption, the department directors will be put on notice that they need to align their resources and their finances and develop tactical plans which will support essentially this particular strategic plan. Those tactical plans will provide the specificity that you've actually commented on, Councilman Kavner, which would include things like who's going to be the lead, what is the priority of the tactics that are going to support the objectives and the goals of this particular plan, who, when are they going to get done, what is the general cost for those types of things. All of that detail will be generated, pulled together. Once that occurs, and that could take some time to put together, I can tell you from my experience in the Public Works Department, that took between 6 and 9 months for us to do. So we may be able to accelerate that. We might not. I can't comment on that component at this point in time. But what I can say is that that process will have to be one that every department director works closely with the mayor on to. And then once we develop those tactical plans, then we would bring those back to the city council and share with the city council how we intend to essentially operationalize the plan. At that point, we would begin implementation of the plan, and that would start our calendar year periods for review. That's at least my impression as to how things would roll out, and I'd yield to the mayor if she would like to modify that or correct that.
Follow-up question, though, Madam Mayor. Tom, during this process, then, let's say 6 months from now, a new goal for one of these sections emerges. Is this liquid? Are new goals added? Are things dropped? I mean, what's your vision on what that process would look like? Or once we adopt it, are things kind of locked in stone?
Mm-hmm. Well, I can give you my impressions and recommendation on that front, but again, I would want to make sure that I had the support of the mayor and my colleagues, the other directors. But essentially, I would imagine that in the annual review, we would provide updates as to progress on attainment of the goals and objectives in the plan. And if the plan had become, say, for example, out of date or needed modification, for example, this goal, we tried to do this, it doesn't make any sense, we'd like to take this goal off or take this objective off, this is a different objective that we'd like to place back on, that would follow the same process as the annual update, meaning that at the time the annual update occurred with the city council would also be presented with modifications to the plan for the next period. That way the council is always made aware as to what's going on in the plan, where progress is in the plan for the things that we have committed to pursue, and where those things that we thought we'd like to pursue but maybe didn't quite work out under evaluation or under some other analysis need to come off, and alternatively where some new opportunities that we didn't see, at least at this point in time, might be able to be included. But because this is a high-level document, my opinion is that the council needs to be informed, at least annually, and also be in alignment with any changes that might be proposed. So essentially, almost like a readoption process on an annual basis. Now, I would caution the council in this way. It is very important, while I won't stand here and say that everything is locked in stone, we do need to make sure that we are committed to what at least we know and have identified as today's path forward. If this plan gets undermined every 3 months or 6 months or whatnot, then it's not really a strategic plan. It doesn't guide us to do anything. So there is a certain level of tolerance for modifications, but at the same time, this plan has to transcend even council changes, for that matter. This is not necessarily this city council's plan, this is the community's plan. And so we want to make sure that there is synergy, that there's alignment, and that there is direction that continues even when council members come and go, mayors come and go, department directors come and go, and certainly staff comes and goes. So we feel like because this is a community document, it needs to have some continuity in time in order to ensure that we will be progressing towards the targets we've at least identified for ourselves today.
Madam Mayor, sorry. I appreciate your comments, and I'm happy to hear that. You said something, though, that kind of, to quote Councilman Zaremba, maybe a sideways question, but if something is or isn't successful, who's the one that's deciding that? Is that the department director that's involved in that? Is it the strategic subcommittee? Is it the overall larger group? Is it the mayor?
It's the conversation that we have at this level. That's when you come back for your update and you say, here are the milestones that have been reached, and let's discuss the variances. So you're over, under, and what you started down a path, and this is what you learned, and this path is not what it first seemed, and you have that conversation. So, no, it's the leadership team. It's the directors. It's the people that are sitting up here, and I think that's the value of that conversation.
Okay. I think that's it for my questions. Thank you.
Mr. Byrd?
Yeah, I would have no problem moving on. I don't agree with it 100%, but there's one thing about it, the council's always got the pocketbook. But with a third of our council gone tonight, I'd like to do it, Tom, when we have 6 guys here, 6 people. That would be but I'm willing to, myself personally, but I think we need to, but.
When we set this out, we didn't know we were going to have
I know
2
it,
people
Pam. I know
missing,
it.
so it wasn't intentional.
But 1 week isn't going to hurt us.
No, it won't.
So
But we did want to have the conversation.
I think it's great.
Entertain the questions. Again, encourage if you are not bought in, Mr. Byrd, we need to have that conversation. If there's something on there that concerns you, when you say we agree that these are the directions we want you to explore, you may not believe 100%, but who knows what that outcome is going to be. It will come back again, and
yeah.
you'll see what the measurements are. You'll see more an operational plan that supports this. Then, maybe those conversations.
My philosophy is we as a city do a very sufficient job of covering what we as a city should be covering. A strategic plan to me is let's make sure we do it in a better way and a more efficient way. Let's don't add a bunch of added things that we probably don't even need to be putting our noses into. That's my way of thinking on a strategic plan. But I think I've always been one that if I've been on the negative side and it's come out, and I've been on the negative one, when I walk out of here, I'm with the positive ones. I've never ran to the press and said anything, or anything like that, and I never would. So anyway, that's my thought.
Madam Mayor.
I'm not sure what he just said, but
You don't need to run him, he's here.
I don't know if I know what I said.
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Zaremba.
I guess I would comment that I may be interpreting this differently. look to a strategic plan to be a future document.
Roadmap.
For us to determine what direction do we want to go. It kind of starts where we are already and says, that's fine for 90,000 citizens, but we know that there are huge changes coming, the kind of changes that we've had in the last 10, 15, 20 years are going to keep happening, and the way I describe it is, it's like climbing a ladder. Every step up the ladder, or every 10,000 more citizens, but every step up the ladder, you see a little farther over the horizon, and you see something you didn't see on a lower rung, and things are different. And I look to this document and this process that surrounds this document as a way to start trying to anticipate each of those steps up and what we're likely to see when we get there, because there are other people in the world that are ahead of us. And to say, okay, what do we need to do about that? Some of which we need to do right away to get ourselves going the right direction, and some of it we don't need to do until we've got 110,000 citizens. But by that time, maybe we do need to do it. And so I guess I interpret the strategic planning process as, how do we prepare for that future? That's kind of what I'm hoping this will do.
It is. It's a roadmap, and if there are things on here that you do not agree with, we need to have that conversation, because before we start down a road where staff believes they have a clear picture of the direction they're going, and they start putting a lot of effort and resources behind that, we want to make sure that's actually what is been approved. So,
Madam Mayor, you just
Ms.
kind of
Milo.
stole what I was about to say,
Okay.
but that's all right. No. So the way I see this is as a
you
road.
can have it back.
It's a roadmap, but not only for us, but for the future us, because Tom isn't going to be head of Public Works forever. I'm probably not going to be on City Council forever, and
Yes, you
so
are.
it's a starting place, and that's why it has things that we are currently doing, not because we have to plan for what we're currently doing, but so that we can paint a picture of what is going on and what needs to happen, so that it makes it simpler for everybody who comes along after us to just pick up and continue making it better. That's my...
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Byrd.
and I don't disagree with that, don't get me wrong. I think you need strategic plans and stuff, but I think they're at a point to where, and it's a philosophy difference. I believe that government can grow too big. And while you have your strategic plans to make sure that what you are charged by ordinances and laws, state statutes and stuff to do, that you do it right and you do it efficient and everything. But I don't think you need to be out dreaming up stuff to do. I don't see this as doing that. Don't get me wrong. And I think we would do this in a resolution, am I right, Mr. Neri? So it's not going to be an ordinance. So I have no problem with it. I don't agree with it 100%, but I don't think everybody would want everybody to agree 100%. But anyway, I don't disagree with what the strategic plan stands for. But I think we just need to make sure that we do everything that we're charged to do as a city right and efficient, and we are doing it. I've probably seen this thing, Charlie and I have probably seen this city go harder and faster than anybody sitting up here or in this room. And I watched a bunch of employees work their rear ends off just to keep their eyeballs above water back in from 96 to 2002. So we have the basis, Tom, and we got brilliant people working for us. So the strategic plan, I have no problem with it. I might disagree with some things, but that's me. Anyway, I would like, Madam Mayor, to have this done when we have 6 people here, so that everybody buys into it, or buys into it.
Mr. Kavner?
Well, I don't want to reopen this up if we may be discussing it more down the road, but just so, because I didn't see it reflected here in the plan, you have the strategic planning team, but then you have a subgroup within that. Is that correct? Like a, I don't know, like a, not like an executive leadership team, but like a strategic group within this. Is that correct?
You might be referring to the subcommittee, the
Yes.
strategic planning subcommittee.
And who is on that again? Because I don't see it reflected in
You
here.
bet. So that would be myself, the fire chief, Mark Niemeyer, Robert Simison, and the community development director, Bruce Chatterton.
Follow up? Again, if we're not talking about individuals but positions, it would be the intent that if any of those people in that capacity were to leave, that their predecessor or whoever would follow them would also serve in that capacity. So it's more of a
No.
no.
No, it's a group that, there is a lot of work in that, and you try and get 10 people around the table doing it. It was more of a working group, and it was a group that kept everyone meeting their deadlines and following up on the things that they needed to follow up on. So,
Will this, Madam Mayor, sorry, question. Will this group have then a active role as this process progresses, or since we've received this document, once we adopt it, does that, the need for that group no longer exist?
that is yet to be determined. That's
Fair
the TBD part of it, to be determined. And certainly there's going to have to be oversight, and I ultimately own this. And we will have an updated process to our senior management team to keep each other on task and meeting deadlines and those kind of things. So I can't completely answer you on what that structure will look like. So, but at this point, that's all I can share. Unless you have something
No, Madam Mayor.
that I haven't dreamed up yet.
No, I think you handled that well. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, we'll put this again on the agenda next week and have a further conversation. You four will be here, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Plan on it.
thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
That's the crypt, right?
Thank you.
Crisis.
Okay, item 9B is under our Public Works Department. Mr. Barry?
Oh, Madam Mayor, members of the council, sorry. My boss was talking to me and I was paying attention to him.
Yeah, and his was talking to him.
This is essentially, as you guys know, we have been having HDR as a consulting firm here in town offer and provide support for us through the NPDES permitting process, as well as the TMDL development process. They have done that in several different ways. One, they have been essentially a voice. HDR, specifically Dave Clark with HDR, has got a very good rapport and good connections with the EPA. And he has been key in helping us to discuss and negotiate and get an NPDES permit that we feel, although it's not as exactly what we would like, appears to be, although we haven't got the final draft yet, we have got the preliminary draft, appears to be reasonable and something that the city can live with. In addition to that, the TMDL process, which we have been involved in extensively, specifically HDR has been involved in the modeling that's gone along with that, and Clint Dolsby's been a key individual. He's been on that committee. He is now actually the chair of that TMDL group. they have been working very hard to try and make sure that the strategies, the technical strategies that have been used are those that are going to provide the most reasonable outcome, best possible outcome for the city of Meridian. That TMDL process has been accelerated, and we do anticipate that the TMDL is going to come out for public comment here in the very near future. We also anticipate, we have been told that the NPDS permit for the city is going to be issued shortly thereafter in combination with the NPDS permits for Nampa and Caldwell. And we need the HDR's ongoing support technically, and also their expertise in negotiation and strategy with EPA on all of those fronts, because we do anticipate that we'll probably have to provide comment not only on our own permit, but on the TMDL process and also the Nampa and Caldwell permits as well, just to ensure that we get a fair deal out of all of this. And this change order is for the 2015, continued 2015 services for HDR to provide that ongoing support. Now, if things go smoothly and we get really favorable results out of all of those things, we certainly hope that we won't need all of that. But based on what we believe could occur, this scope of work has been put together, and that's the need for the change order. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Warren. Council questions?
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Byrd.
Warren, what was the original contract?
I don't know off the top of my head, to be honest with you.
I couldn't see it in here either.
It was I think around 300.
320 or something.
Yeah, 300 and something
Oh, yeah,
thousand, but I
okay.
couldn't remember the exact
I'm
number.
sorry, it is there, yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Right.
Mr. Zaremba.
I move we approve change order number 1 to HDR Engineering for the NPDES Permit Strategy and Technical Assistance Project for a not to exceed amount of $96,000.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item 9B. Madam Clerk, will you call roll?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Cavanagh.
Aye.
Councilmember Mylum.
Aye.
Councilmember Byrd.
Aye.
Councilmember Zaremba.
Aye.
Boy, those were some enthusiastic eyes. Okay, item 9C is under our Parks and Recreation Department. Good evening, Mike.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. We have an agreement for use of Settlers Park tennis facilities for your consideration this evening. The reason we're bringing it in front of you is two-part. Number one, we want to recognize the effort of the Meridian Tennis Association and the partnership that we've had in developing the tennis court complex. They've been at the table during design. As you know, their first vision was an indoor complex, and the challenges of fundraising kind of doomed that project. But we went ahead and, with their help, cut the ribbon on the 7-court tennis facility last week. And not only did they help us through design, but they helped us attain 2 different grants, one for $7,500 from USTA and another one from Idaho Tennis Association for $1,000. So what we would like to do in appreciation of their efforts is offer them 6 weekend tournaments. It would be held between June 1st and July 15th, 2 tournaments for 3 years for a total of 6 tournaments at no charge. We've kind of structured that so we have a definite beginning and end to this appreciation recognition, and also offer tournament use during times when the park is not quite as busy as it is in the spring and fall with flag football and Meridian Youth Baseball. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Byrd.
I don't have any questions. I just want to make a public statement that our ribbon cutting out there really showed what a fine facility, Mike. And I know it's the effort of all the parks and everything, but I know you're the leader of that part. That is one of the finest facilities. I think we've got great facilities throughout the city. Everything we've done has been first class, and it shows, and it still does. But those tennis courts are some of the finest facilities I think I've ever seen, and our parks look, our park department does such a great job. You just bust with pride when you drive through those things, and I just can't thank you guys in that department enough for what you do. And
Appreciate that.
you're the face for the city of Meridian, and you make us elected officials look awful good. Thank you very much.
Appreciate
And
it.
that's hard.
You make us look good.
No, we appreciate just what Mr. Byrd said, the pride that the staff takes in the facilities that they are assigned to. They own it, and they wear their responsibilities like a badge of honor. Kudos to Debbie, and because I know her heart and soul is in that park. But if you'll please pass along Mr. Byrd's comments
Appreciate
and
it.
our appreciation from the entire council.
Certainly will, and in fact, right after the ribbon cutting, I sent Debbie a message that said, "Good job, the park looks great," and it was well received. So we recognize their efforts, and we pass it along every chance we get. Our staff, like you said, owns their area of responsibility, and we have a good thing going.
Yeah,
So
and
we appreciate
seeing
it.
those kids out on the Lowell courts was
Awesome.
just awesome. That was awesome.
That was fun.
So,
Yeah.
Madam
okay.
Mayor?
Yes.
Quick question for you, Mike. What would be the total amount of fees if they would have had to pay those for this event? For their 6 events that they would have scheduled?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, Councilman Cavanagh, the total amount, each tournament would be approximately $300 in reservation fees. So $600, $1,800, yeah.
So I thought, I appreciate
Yep.
it. I think it's showing that it is a great partnership, that they're giving a lot, and this is great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Byrd?
there are no other questions. I move that we approve the agreement with the Meridian Tennis Association for 3 years of 2 tournaments per year without a fee charge, and for the mayor to sign, the clerk to attest.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve item 9C. Madam Clerk, will you call roll?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Cavanagh.
Aye.
Councilmember Mylum.
Aye.
Councilmember Byrd.
Aye.
Councilmember Zaremba.
Yes.
Enthusiastic?
I really did like the enthusiasm behind this one. So.
That's for
They
you.
were talking
Passes.
before.
Item 9D is under our community, D and E is under our Community Development Department. So, Bruce. Oh, and just, I know most of the council knows, I don't know if Mr. Byrd knows, but congratulations, Bruce, on your engagement.
Oh, yes.
And,
Congratulations.
Appreciate it. Let's see if I can actually go from there. Threw me off, Mayor. Items 9D and 9E are financial housekeeping for the multi-use center project development plan. You'll remember that you originally budgeted and gave spending authorization for $30,000 for this project from the city. In the meantime, we received contributions. We're really appreciative of those contributions from MDC and the Chamber, and those totaled $15,500. So that revenue, that contribution, is item 9D. That's the first piece of this. Also, you may remember back when Sean Garrison with Pegasus was giving his final presentation, we talked a little bit about, we took a little bit of a breather, about a 2-week breather on the project to take a close look at it and not rush to a final presentation. So we took 2 or 3 weeks to do that. I also made the call to request an additional trip from Sean to talk to stakeholders more, to flesh things out more, to get more detail for the recommendations. So 7E is the change order for that work. So with the contributions from our partners, the city to date has spent $21,500 on this project. And of course, under the $30,000 cap that you originally placed on the project. So I did have one other thing I wanted to mention, but are there any questions about that piece of it?
Council, any questions?
I have none.
No. Thanks. I wanted to mention that we would like to get some additional assistance from Pegasus as we move through the RFP process, both in helping write portions of the RFP to make it more effective with developers, and also to help us review and assess the proposals that we actually get back from developers. That change order is not before you tonight. It will probably be in the amount of, it'll be coming up in an upcoming agenda. It'll be in the amount of $8,500. We will still, that would bring us to $30,000 total spending from the city, which of course was our original budgeted amount. I wanted to mention that and ask if there are any questions about that before you see that on an upcoming agenda.
Any comments, questions? Okay.
Thank you.
So council, in front of you are two items that need action. So if you have any further questions, please let us know, or do I have a motion?
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Kevner.
I move that we accept the budget amendment for additional spending authority based on contributions from MDC and the Meridian Chamber for Pegasus Multi-Use Event Center in an amount not to exceed $15,500.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item 9D. Madam Clerk, will you call roll?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Cavanagh.
Aye.
Councilmember Mylum.
Aye.
Councilmember Byrd.
Aye.
Councilmember Zaremba.
Aye.
All ayes.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Kevner.
I move that we approve the change order number 1 to Pegasus Planning and Development for the Project Development Plan Multi-Purpose Event Center project for a not to exceed amount of $7,000.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve item 9E. Madam Clerk, will you call roll?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Cavanagh.
Aye.
Councilmember Mylum.
Aye.
Sorry. Councilmember Byrd.
Aye.
Councilmember Zaremba.
Aye.
All ayes. Item 9F is under our department report for fire.
Madam Mayor, members of council, thank you. I'm going to sit over here and do this. Should be pretty quick, but I do want to pass on and echo Chief Levy's comments about Baltimore. We have colleagues in Baltimore, and so our thoughts are out with them, along with the elected officials of Baltimore. That's a heck of a situation. But it struck me today, if you've seen pictures there, you've seen the riot police surrounding firefighters as they tried to put out fires. And I know a few folks in Baltimore, and that's not a natural thing for those two agencies. They don't necessarily get along very well. And today I had the opportunity, I went to a two-alarm structure fire on Franklin, and Battalion Chief Shaw got there before me, so he assigned me as traffic control. A very stressful job until law enforcement got there. And the long story short is I've spent 21 years in public safety, and if there's one thing I know law enforcement loves, it's for us to get our stuff off the road so they can get traffic going again. Right? Am I right? So I went up to the officer and I said, hey, we're working hard to get our apparatus off the road. We'll get it off as soon as we can. And this officer looked at me and said, Chief, don't worry about it. We're here for you. Whatever you need, you got it. And I thought, that was cool. So just to pass on that story. It's just another great story of cooperation between our two departments. So with that, before you tonight is an agreement with Wolf Apps LLC. This is digitizing our standing written orders to be able to put them on electronic devices. This is something IT cannot do. We did confer with them. It's been planned for a year. It's in our existing budget, so there's no money added to it. It is heavily supported by our two medical directors. Just a history, in the past, we have always printed off hard copies of these, and several of them for all of our providers. The medical directors meet quarterly, so about twice a year we have changes to our protocols, which causes a reprint of all of those hard copies. And so this is going to digitize that. The agreement does allow for updates to be made as well. So it's essentially an iPad app, an iPhone app, an Android app, that those automatic updates happen just like you would with any other app. So that is the request, and we're looking for your approval.
Thank you, Mark. Council, any questions?
I have none.
Okay.
Seeing Bill, Joe isn't here. Madam Mayor,
Mr. Byrd.
I move we approve the change order or the agreement with Wolf Apps LLC and for the mayor to sign, the clerk to attest.
Second.
A motion and everyone seconded. Madam Clerk, will you call roll?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Cavanagh.
Aye.
Councilmember Mylum.
Aye.
Councilmember Byrd.
Aye.
Councilmember Zaremba.
Aye.
All ayes. 9G is under our legal department.
Thank you,
And
Madam.
this will be just a couple minutes, too.
We certainly hope. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. What you have in front of you that we'd like to bring forward at a future meeting is periodically we collect a lot of information from departments on outdated ordinances that we have or things that need to be modified. And all of the ones that are in this ordinance are what we consider to be fairly small changes. We have vetted them through the departments. Again, I can briefly go over what the changes are for the record. One section repeals the massage therapist licensing. We used to require that as a city license. The state actually requires it now for a state license, so it's duplicative for the city to do that. So we have removed that section. One section repeals the open burning provisions. We previously required permits to do open burning within the city. They actually eliminated that a number of years ago. They don't require that any longer. And the open burning is governed by the International Fire Code. So it's still enforceable under our city code, but we don't require permits any longer. The next section removes the planning divisions from the fireworks stand application workflow. Fireworks stands are required to get permitted through the city, but we route them also through planning. Well, the planning very often doesn't have any comments for them. What we found is it's more effective if they find issues with them at either at the inspection level from fire, they will then bring them to planning's attention as part of the fire inspection. So not wanting to slow the process down by having it go through the planning department when it's not needed. We've changing the deadline for the fireworks stands. The current deadline for winter is June 1. Most people don't think about putting up a fireworks stand in June for December, so now it's December 1 because it makes more sense to people. It used to be in the past that the fireworks stand requirement for the summer in July was in April, and most people in April don't think about what they're going to do in July. And so we shortened that time up and moved it up earlier. This is just catching up with the winter one. Another section adds the public fireworks display permit applications, a requirement that the applicant describe the number and types of mortars and ignition source that they're using. So again, our fire department knows what they're doing and where they're doing it. We also changed the public fireworks display permit application from 45 days in advance to 30. Again, for the same reason, it's when people start thinking about doing those projects, and that's an adequate time for us to have time to review the plans, review the requests, and inspect the sites. We added the fire department to the false alarm section. Currently, under our false alarm code, there is a charge that you can have for having too many excessive false alarms, but it doesn't count for the fire alarm. That didn't make any sense to the fire department or the police because they certainly have the same cost and expense to responding to false alarms, so it adds the fire alarms into that. The police department recommended we conduct background checks on new pawnbrokers, so we added that section into the pawnbroker ordinance. It's not for the ones that are renewal or already existing, but it's for new people entering that market. To be honest, I don't know how many people enter the pawnbroking market these days, but if they do, we certainly want to make sure we do an adequate background check. The pawnbroker licenses are specific to the locations. If you recall, a few years ago, when we changed that, we also have computer systems that are required that are part of their system. So again, it's related to the location as well as not the individuals. Clarified also with state law or federal law prohibits us from requiring written records of regulated pawn shop transactions. So certain things that the federal government doesn't allow us to collect, we've deleted it from the ordinance, so that way we aren't going to be in violation. The last one is we wanted to remove the parking time limits for law enforcement or public safety types of equipments, because if you recall, our trailer requirement says that a trailer has to be attached to a vehicle and then it's allowed to be on the street. But that also would then apply to the speed trailer. It would apply to any trailer that's used for road diversions, road closures, those types of things. Obviously, that wasn't what was intended. We were really trying to not deal with public safety or roadway things, so this just exempts those from that. It's a very quick, few-minute summary, but those are all, we think, fairly minor. They're things we've collected probably over the last year. Ms. Kane does a good job of tracking all of those and then putting them into one ordinance so we could bring forward next week or the week after, whatever's your preference.
Thank you. It's very nice to see common sense and simplicity trying to weave its way and find those kind of archaic pieces in our ordinances. So please extend our thanks to Emily.
I will.
Any questions from council? Okay, then we'll bring that forward.
We'll bring it up, put it out next week.
Okay. Any items for item 10 for future agendas?
I have none.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn into executive session.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Byrd,
I move we go into executive session as per Idaho State Code 6723451 1A, 1D, and 1F.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn into executive session. Madam Clerk, will you call roll?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Cavanagh. Councilmember Mylum.
Aye.
Councilmember Byrd.
Aye.
Councilmember Zaremba.
Aye.